Hey everybody, this is Sin Speaks, and today we're doing yet another interview, and this time it's with one of my favorite fanfiction writers, yes. We're here with Mandroid.
You're a flatterer. That'll get you nowhere.
Yeah.
Hi.
So, you are AiE fanfiction writer, non-equestrian fanfiction writer, correct?
Yeah.
How did you get into MLP?
The first time I ever heard about it was it was the year after it had just come out, that February. So the show had come out in, I believe, September or sometime in the fall, and I'd heard about it that next February. And then I was still in college, and I just was talking to one of my friends, and he was on B or something, and he was complaining that there was all these goddamn horses everywhere. And I said, well, have you seen it? You know, there's got to be a reason for them to be there.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe, what I don't know what it is, but there has to be some reason. And he said, nah, it's just stupid. They're just trying to piss people off. It's like, okay, whatever. And for the next 6 or so months or something, I didn't hear too much about it. And during that time, the first season, it had gone on its way. But after I graduated and come back home, I started to hear more about it. It's just people are cosplaying as characters and drawing all this fan art, and et cetera, et cetera. And that August, I went down back to my college town to visit a friend. I stayed there for a while. One day he was out or sick or something, and I was left alone in the house. So I used his internet to download all the episodes and watch them while he was away. And I thought, this is interesting. This is, for children's programming, I've definitely seen worse things out there. Then I went on a lot back then. I still do. Yeah, comics and cartoons board. And this is back before the Schism happened. I'll get into that. But there was always a My Little Pony General, and I'd go in there and look around. Everyone in there was weird. I didn't know what was up. But eventually, everyone on 4chan got tired of it, and they made a separate board for it. And one day, I just decided to go in there and see what was up, and I saw this thread called the Rainbow Dash thread, which is just, a bunch of stupid assholes writing fan fiction about how if Anon were Rainbow Dash's best friend and she secretly wanted to fuck him or something. And that sort of, over time, spiraled into Anon and Equestria, which was less restrictive and that you write about other people. That's, simplifying it a lot, but I'd been following since before the threads had a name, and I want to say in thread like 95 or something was when I jumped in, and I'd been reading a bunch of fan fictions for Greek tech stories for very, very, very long time since then, and I had all these ideas, because when I read something I think, oh, well, that's interesting, how would I do it differently? Or if I had these unnamed characters in my head, how would they react to situation X, Y, and Z? And eventually, I still remember the day, May 5th of 2012, at like 3 in the morning, I just thought, this is too much. I'm thinking about this all the time. I gotta get these thoughts out of my head somehow. And I jammed out like 1,000 words in 45 minutes, posted it. Some people liked it, then I jammed out another 700 words in like another half hour, and then everything else just sort of spiraled out of control from there. And here I am 3 years later. I started on thread 90 something, and now we're on thread 1067.
A long time ago.
Yeah, so a very, very long time ago, I made a very big mistake, and I'm still paying for it now. Is the thought.
I was actually talking to Wooten. My last interview was Wooten, and he actually did a narration thing for the 1000th thread.
Yeah, yeah, he told me about that. He's narrated at least one of my stories, potentially more, but he was one of those people who was there when I told you of that one fic I wrote that was written by the Skype chat, just because it was like a Thursday night or something, and all of us were bored, and we were just spitballing ideas around, and one took off. And he was there, he suggested something, I forget what his exact contribution was, but I know it made it in, and then he just decided to go narrate it.
You also did another thing for a lot of the Skype chat, which, for the viewers, if you don't know, there is a Skype chat for the BIE crew. If you guys are interested and whatnot, message someone of the BIE crew, and if you're cool, they might let you in. If not, well, go walk away.
We'll let you into our cesspool chat, and we won't let you into one of our many super secret clubs where we talk about people we don't like and like anime or something.
Yeah, the weird stuff.
Yeah, you joke, but there is like a weird stuff chat out there somewhere.
But yeah, you did a thing for the guys in there. It was like the thing for
the alliteration. Yeah, that was I remember that. That was one night when I was also bored. You'll sense the theme if you go back and look at all of my fan fictions. Most of them come from when I was bored. Yeah, I think I watched V for Vendetta, and he did this really alliterative speech where he used the letter V in the start of every word. I thought that was really cool. And so I thought, you know what? I'm not doing anything important right now or ever, so I'll take 2 hours of my time and crack open a thesaurus and see what I can find.
But yeah, you made one for yourself. Would you mind saying it for us?
Oh fuck! You're gonna find that thing first.
I sent you on private chat, so
yeah, it's on my Faceman, which is where I keep all my crap. So okay, I wrote that 2 weeks after I started. Okay, get this shit out of my mouth. I don't have a very good voice, so you'll probably have to get Wooten to do this later. Marvelous. To wit, a malicious, manic madman in the mode of a machine, making his meager mark in a mass of semi-murderous men. This mask, no mere means of mischief, is a mark of many months of mild monotony, now molded and messed up. Moreover, this melded memoir of mares and men remains monitored by a magnificent monster whose mind-blowing morals has moved the monumental mountain of melancholy that has made movement immeasurable. The most meaningful of myths from the mouths of these mammoths has made matrix of motivation upon my meager musings. Moving on, it is my merry milestone to meet you, and you may call me Mandroid. You should rewrite all these.
That's pretty good. How long did it take you to make that?
All of them?
Not just that one. Well, you can do all of them too, but mostly just that one.
That one, I want to say 10 minutes?
Damn.
Maybe that. After that, I posted it in the Skype, and then everyone else said, do me, and so I, using the same basic, meter and algorithm and function, I just sort of banged out a bunch for some other people who wanted. I did one for Wooten. Yeah, a lot of people had one.
Cool. On your Faceman?
Yeah, Faceman.
Yeah, Faceman. Yes, we won't call it Faceman now. But on your Faceman, you have a lot of stories. Most of which I didn't read. But I have 5 of them currently in my face. First one should be Father of the Night.
Yes.
Could you tell us a bit about that?
I read a lot of comic books, and I remember seeing some image where some background pony, they gave her the name Bruce Maine. I thought, well, that's really interesting. I think Dark Knight Rises had just come out or something, or I watched it again, or some stupid thing. But I read a lot of comic books. I had just seen the movie, and I saw that, and I thought, well, this is fertile ground. I haven't seen anyone do anything like this anymore. But how would I make it interesting? And then I thought, well, what if he was like 9? And then
Batman.
Yeah, then everything else I just sort of ran away with and let everything else take over. Really, the thing that motivated me to actually, I guess, get off my ass and do that was that I wanted to make Iron Will Bane, but everything else sort of, the pieces fell into place, and I just picked them up and put them in the right order.
That happens with a lot of your stories, eh?
Yeah, a lot of them just start as an idea, and then I have to plot out the whole thing. Father of the Night was one of those things that, in hindsight, I probably would have made shorter. There's definitely some points where I feel that I fumbled on it, but overall, I can't say that I'm disappointed with it or anything. I just think there's definitely some parts that I could have done better.
Could you give us a summary of it for the viewers?
Anon, that's the general theme. Every for any of your viewers who don't know, the Anon and Equestria threads, you can do whatever you want about whatever, but the main character's name must generally be anonymous, just cuz.
As a kind of pointed thing.
Yeah, so the whole thing was that in the Batman mythos, the comic books, when Bruce Wayne was 8 years old, his parents were killed. And then he went off to go be Batman, and took 20 years to study all this crap, yada 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 yada. I sped it up, and so his parents were killed, and then a year later he was ready to be Batman, or Batman as I think I called him. And the gist of it was that Anonymous was declared his Alfred, for lack of a better comparison. So he was his caretaker, his ward, Bruce Maine, as his name was, became his ward, and they lived in this big house with a cave under it.
Yeah.
And so, since Batman himself is not exactly the most, let's say, adjusted individual, Anonymous had to. The story starts out with Anonymous having to sort of get a handle on this crazy tiny horse who goes around fighting crime in a costume all night. I won't spoil anything, but the rest goes
very interesting.
Yeah, and obviously somewhere in there, Iron Will shows up and he's Bane. That was the only.
I mean, freaking Iron Will can be the only one who can be Bane. I mean, seriously.
Pretty much, that was my thoughts on it. Was that he was the only one who could do that, and then after that, they made the Power Ponies episode, which was.
Well, it was good, but
it was a case of I saw that and I was like, they're gonna rip me off. They're gonna rip off my ideas, but they didn't. I still liked it. Alright. That's the basic gist of that. Honestly, that story's probably the one that I have the second least to say about. Only beaten out by the story that I had to abandon.
Yeah. How many stories have you abandoned so far?
1, and I intend to keep that number at that level. I don't like abandoning anything that I work on. I like to give things a proper conclusion. I hate abandoning something. Anyone who's listening who actually gives a damn about me can rest assured that I will, in the event that I ever just stop writing in general, I will finish what I'm doing at the time that I decide to stop writing first. I will never leave something in the lurch the same way I did my one fiction that I didn't finish. And that just didn't get finished because I didn't know what I was doing with it. It was too tonally weird. There was some narrative stuff that I wasn't really working out on. Yeah. I just wasn't having a good time.
Yeah, when you have a really bad story, you kind of just need to kick in the nuts and throw it away.
I was like, I don't even want to say the story was bad. It definitely has. I feel like it had merit, just not in colorful horse fiction.
Yeah, just doesn't work proper.
Yeah, they clash too much. I don't do grimdark stuff. I don't do edgy things. Most of my stories, I tell this to everybody. I'm incapable of writing something that's 100% serious. I'll always make some sort of crack about something or some joke somewhere, but I feel that it's very important to have any degree of levity in your work, and that story was just too serious all the time. I was unable to enjoy myself with that because it wasn't building up to anything. There was no lighthearted sort of releasing of pressure. It was just all serious all the time, and I wasn't having a good time.
Yeah, all serious just doesn't work. Being lighthearted is good and all, but like comedy needs some balance to it, and same with seriousness. You just can't have pure seriousness or just pure comedy. It doesn't work very well, does it?
The root of all comedy is tragedy and juxtaposition. I think I don't know who I told, but it was someone very recently. I told a friend that a personal funny thing of mine would be if I redid all of Schindler's List, which is a very serious, Holocaust movie. Very serious, not a joking matter. And it's a shot-for-shot remake of Schindler's List, or an equally serious idea. Totally played straight. And then at the end, the last shot before the credits roll is that someone gets hit in the face with a pie. And then that's it. It's not explained, but it happens, and the whole movie was leading up to that point.
Yeah, just laugh your ass off.
Yeah.
You were talking about the stanza, was it earlier?
The what? The what? The schism?
Yeah, that's it. Schism. Sorry.
I tell you, I mentioned I would talk about this. The schism was. I come from 4chan, the armpit of the internet, and that was where a lot of pony stuff sort of, let's say, found a root and was pushed into this big firestorm that it became. Ponies were originally put on 4chan's Comics and Cartoons board, where they belonged. But on 4chan, we have something called shitposting, which is where you go into a thread to just be an asshole and shit up the entire place. Make the whole place less fun. But, and because everyone on 4chan is anonymous, unless you're a fag like me, no one knows who's doing what. So one guy, through tenacity and perseverance, can legitimately destroy an entire thread. So people would take the ponies and go to places where they were not welcome, like video game threads or anime threads or yada yada yada. And it became this big site-wide epidemic where people were not able to talk about anything because someone would post a picture of ponies or something. And so the problem became so severe that the administration of 4chan sat down and said all pony conversation is now banned from these other thread boards, and you must go to this one board that we made specifically for you, just so that they're, out of the way. And that's where all the pony threads went. That's where Anon and Equestria started. That's where everything sort of found its own culture, we'll say.
Yeah, I think I actually talked with the guy who made the board, the MLP board, I think at one point.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Scruffy the janitor.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I actually met him or I talked to somebody about him, but I know I at least had one conversation, either with him or with a guy who knew him. I'm not entirely sure. It's a long while ago. And yeah, the schism.
SCHISM.
But that seems both needed as well as unnecessary.
It was in a perfect world it would be unnecessary, because in a perfect world people wouldn't shit up threads that they don't belong in, but based on the fact that we don't live in a perfect world, it was absolutely needed to ensure that other people wouldn't, it's better than being banned outright, we'll say.
Yeah. Now we have stuff like AiE and other stuff.
Yes, it's allowed for its own brand of whatever to take hold.
Yeah. The next story, which I have up here, is Aces High.
Yes.
Could you give us little details about that?
Stop barking, dogs. Aces High was a story that I wrote not on a dare or request so much as just a whim. I noticed there weren't a lot of Spitfire stories, so I thought, I'll fix that.
Let's make her drunk.
She is an alcoholic in the story. I'll admit that. But it's because the gist of it is that Anon has this crazy jetpack or something, which is just a MacGuffin jetpack, let him fly. And he's the only human member of the Wonderbolts. And the story's 20-something chapters long. That's the other thing. Frozen Equestria was like 88 chapters at the end of it, and I told myself when I was done, I am never, ever, ever doing something that big again.
But that was so awesome!
That was when I wrote every day. I do not have it in me to write every day for 2 months anymore. I think even in the end of Frozen Equestria, I was writing twice. I was doing 2 chapters a day, which was absolutely unheard of. But Aces High was 20 chapters of just Anonymous and being a professional racer, doing racer things and going on these whatever crazy Mario Kart inspired courses I could think of.
Mm-hmm.
That's basically the gist of it. It's just a fun ride. I did it for kicks, and I enjoyed it.
The last one we have here, other than BIE and playing the news, is Helios. Now, I can't for the life of me remember what this thing was about.
This was the second story I ever wrote, if you don't count Flanking Maneuvers, because I had planned Helios since, chapter 20 of Frozen Equestria.
Damn.
So what happened was, as we all know, Celestia is the best horse ever, and she didn't have that many stories.
Mm-hmm.
When I looked, she was not very well represented, we will say.
Nobody particularly likes her for some reason. It's weird.
It's because they're wrong. But, so I had planned to do a story about her, and I wanted to make it, not Princess Molestia or Tyrant Molestia, something like where she's an actual person with feelings and emotions.
Mm-hmm.
But I told myself, I'm going to finish Frozen Equestria first because I don't want to double dip and end up neglecting one thing in favor of another. In the interim, I of course wrote Flanking Maneuvers, which is one of my more popular stories, and definitely helped me figure out what kind of Celestia I like writing.
Mm-hmm.
But I still wanted to go through with what I promised for Helios. So Helios' story is this weird romance, mystery, action fusion thing that I just thought up, where Anonymous is Celestia's personal bodyguard.
Mm-hmm.
So he's her shadow, for lack of a better term. And weird stuff starts happening around the kingdom. There's an invasion of stuff. Weird things keep going on, and so while defending Celestia's life and the kingdom, Anonymous has to sort of figure out what's going on in the world and figure out what these crazy shenanigans are. And I'm actually planning to do a sequel to Helios called Sunspot. I'm writing a story right now called Am I Evil, which is where I take all the villains of the show and put them in a rock and roll band because I thought it was a cool idea. And after that, I'm writing a short story about Luna, and then I'll probably do Helios after that. Not Helios, Sunspot after that.
That sounds good.
Yeah, it's nice to have every step you'll make for the next 2 years planned out.
Yeah.
And I think other than that, you touch on every one of my stories, save my silly Green Lantern one that I wrote on a dare.
Yeah, I listed the ones I've read so far. I've read little bits of them, except for BIE and Flank Maneuvers. Flank Maneuvers I've read only a little bit of, because didn't have much interest, nor do I have much time. But BIE, I've read that thing 3 times. Now, keep in mind, most stories I read once. Maybe twice, if I really like them.
I've had to reread that a lot. I used to go back, and actually read them on my Faceman recreationally, just to be like, oh, did I miss anything?
Yeah.
And I sort of took it less serious, but yeah, a lot of people, it seems to have a lot of staying power.
Yeah, lots of people like it.
Don't get me wrong. I'm thankful and grateful every time someone says they just went back and read it. I'm not going to be here like, yeah, everyone says they read it a lot. It's pretty big. I'm not that kind of person, but it's just, I don't know what it is. Maybe it's 2 people. Maybe it's the fact that was definitely one of the more honest stories I wrote, just because everything was stream of consciousness sort of. Oh, what if I did this? What if I did that? And then it just came out and it felt really honest, but I definitely had a lot. It's definitely my magnum opus, and I definitely blew my load pretty early.
It was really nice. I'm kind of sad that you didn't like make a sequel to it or something like that.
I considered it, but like, can we talk about spoilers in my own fanfiction here?
We can talk about. Well, actually, we should probably start with the thing, and then we can make a spoiler thing afterwards. So.
Okay, so non-spoilery, the ending of Bros in Equestria that I had that planned out since the start. I tell everyone, if you have an ending for your fanfiction, even if it's just like the last scene you want, if you have that before you start, you're in a good place. That will ensure that you don't go off the rails and end up on the moon or something. But I had the ending for Bros in Equestria done before, not like written, but it was plotted out in my head before I even typed a single word. So based on where I saw the story was ending, and based on everything that came before it, I didn't feel that. I felt that I couldn't. Any sort of sequel would have just been
sad.
Not sad, but just lesser for it. Like the adventure that was those 2's lives didn't need an ending so much as or like a sequel. Like, I'd done everything I wanted to do. I legitimately couldn't think of too much extra stuff to do until you see that I have 12 something bonus chapters. But based on where it ended, I couldn't think of a point where they could go off on their own and that I could make a real actual narrative out of.
Yeah. It just won't be the same. I mean, that freaking the pasta chapter where you're sitting on the toilet is like, my insides have become my outsides.
That was a real story. One time I got a terrible stomach disease from my best friend, and like 2 days before class started in college, I was on the toilet at 4 a.m. saying, my insides are trying to become my outsides. I don't know what it was, but it stopped, thank God.
That just makes it better.
Yeah, a lot of stuff that was in Bros in Equestria actually happened to me. The didgeridoo actually happened to me when I was moving in with my roommate. We just found a didgeridoo in his luggage. They were in college, which I based their apartment around the apartment that I used to live in. So, even their personalities, and on most, you see what I did there? I'm so clever. Their personalities were just, they were representations of me and my friends that I just dumped into a big bowl, mixed up, and exaggerated in certain sections.
Yeah, I really like Moose's personality, because like his knife, it's a Bowie knife named Bowie.
It's the oldest joke I have. I'll have a Bowie knife that I name after David Bowie. But Yeah, a lot of people say they like most just because and I think that's just because he's the doer.
He's the badass.
He's the one that makes things happen. He's like any story events get kicked off because of his actions or inactions, whereas Anon is the more
intelligent one.
Intelligent and grounded and actual real person instead of just this exaggerated caricature of your best friend who has some temper issues.
So how did you think of the idea for BIE? Like, what was your thought process when you thought of BIE?
A lot of it started because I just had scenes in my head. The idea for BIE came from I had a lot of scenes in my head, like, oh, I want to do this scene where he walks in on her having sex, or this scene where it makes sense if he works in a massage parlor because he has fingers, or this scene or that scene, or yada, 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 yada. And then I thought, okay, well, how can I do this? And then I noticed, well, if I just do a story about this, crazy asshole who runs around, everyone's going to say, this guy's a crazy asshole. I don't like him. But if I do a story about, a well-rounded sort of stand-up nice guy, I'm not going to be able to do what I want. And then I thought, well, none of these stories have two. What's there to say that I can't? And then I just sat down, came up with these exaggerated caricatures in my head and said, okay, now how do they interact? And then most of that scene was written, most of the story was written by me having to have arguments with myself in conversations to figure out how they would actually point it. What's their relationship? How do they know each other? Why do they still like each other? Why does he put up with this crazy person in his life? And eventually it all just came together. The idea for inter-character relationships came a bit later. Anon and Rainbow Dash being an item, I guess. It's not a spoiler. That happens in the first fourth of it. That happened because I wrote the story back when the Rainbow Dash idea was still a staple, I guess would be the term. Everyone was doing it, so I felt sort of compelled to do it, and it just sort of worked out. I don't know if I would do the same thing if I was going back and rewriting it, but I'm definitely content with how it turned out. And Lotus and Mos came because I said, all right, well, I want to have a romance arc for him. Who do I have him romance? He works.
Who is he around? Is he around the apples or the weird spa ponies?
Who is he around? Well, he's sort of an antisocial asshole, so probably like 3 people. He works with these 2. That's good enough. All right, which one? Whatever one's not pink, because I would like to look at that less. So I picked that one. And that's the story of how I made a romance that people liked. Was I didn't want to look at the pink one all the time.
That was a good romance too. Whoever's watching this, those 2 people. Whoever's watching this, you guys gotta read it, cause wow.
Yeah, we're talking about you, Stephen.
Yeah, you 2, Marcus or Margin or Marhina. Marhina. Yes, that's your new name.
Most common name in the world. And then everything else just sort of fell into place. I learned early on that, and I think in the 3rd chapter, that if I put Mos and Celestia in a room together, I'm going to have a chapter in 2 hours because it writes itself. And then after that, it was just easy to put Anon being around Luda, and everything else, all the other plot threads just sort of fell into place, or had scenes that I wanted to do. I wanted to do something with Derpy Hooves because I thought it was fun. Originally, Derpy was supposed to be in place of Lotus, but someone had done a Derpy-centric romance. They had finished theirs, just as I was starting, and I thought, shit, I'm not going to be able to do this. What do I do? And I just changed it really quick.
Doctor Who's.
Yeah, then I just thought, we'll make it platonic. The three big arcs, for lack of a better term, in that story.
Mm-hmm.
I had those planned out pretty early on. I knew that I wanted to do three big sort of like event arcs, and then in between I'd have 10 chapters of just sort of pissing around, doing nothing.
Before we start talking about the actual arcs, that's mostly spoilers. So we're gonna be talking about flanking maneuvers first, and then we're gonna do spoiler section.
Okay, so flanking maneuvers started where. What thread was it? I have to go back and look at my Faceman for a second. Okay, back in the day, when people would hit milestones on their Faceman, like, 5,000 views, this is so great, like YouTube milestones, they would make a video to celebrate. Well, some people would make special stories to celebrate. And when I hit my 10,000th pace, which was near the end of Birds of Equestria, actually, I decided I had a poll. I will write anything that you people ask me to write for my 10,000th pace. Lay it on me. And I said I will even write pornography or smut. Just give me what you want. And I think I had I only had 3 options because that was all people suggested. I had platonic feel good smut. I had make the 2 bros fuck. And then I had 2 votes for that. And then the one that won out by a very long shot was you should totally have Los and Celestia have hate sex. And I thought, okay, well, that was the one I was rooting for because it'd be the funniest and easiest to do. So.
And the other 2 is just what?
Yeah, the other 2 is I'm willing to do it, but I wouldn't be too happy about it.
Yeah, it's just, why?
But I gave the people what they wanted, so I set out a point in, I think, chapter 26 or something, where Mos was trying to sneak into Celestia's...
Yeah.
To fuck with her or something.
Yeah, he sat on the rooftop and just annoyed the hell out of her while playing the music.
Yeah, he sat on the rooftop...
Because she couldn't finish.
playing music, and I think that was one of the first that was one of the first jokes or scenes I ever came up with. A writer that I liked had done a story where the character walks in on Celestia having sex. And I thought at the time, how would I, or a character that's in my head, react to that? And the answer I came up with is I'd probably walk into the room, vomit on the bed, and then start talking about my grandmother. That wouldn't be as funny as, other stuff. And so I tweaked it a bit, but the same idea remains.
Yeah.
So, mild spoilers, in Birds of Equestria, he does that, and then there's a big chase scene, and it's all well and good. But in the spin-off, what I did was she seduces him after that as recompense for her not getting off. She wants him to get her off. And I'd always written it as there was this, sort of unspoken attraction in Bros in Equestria that never went anywhere because the romantic ties went elsewhere. But I know I touch on it later after the spoilery thing. But there was always some unspoken attraction that just never got up because they both drive each other insane. But after she seduced him, it turned into a divergent canon where I could just do whatever I wanted. So, in that canon, they dated for a while, and then in Celestia, that is, bet Mos in a hay sausage eating contest that if she won, they'd have to get married. And from there, it turned into a married with children-esque thing where I just have 2 people who don't get along, but they have compassion for each other, and they do like each other, just really, 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 really deep down in there. You have to scrape off all the grime.
Yeah, you just kind of have to grab a shovel and dig another 20 feet down, and you can find maybe a speck of it.
Yeah, eventually you'll find that they do care about each other a very great deal, but they'll never ever tell the other person that ever.
Yeah.
That'd be admitting defeat. But yeah. So one night I was writing up this. This was a while after I'd written up this. I'd written up this smut, and I thought, that was okay. I'm enjoying that. Mm-hmm. I had fun. It's got over 1,000 views on my Faceman, so obviously 1,000 other people liked it. And we were just shooting the shit in the Skype chat, and someone said, you should do a Divergent story, like a spin-off, and I was like, well, what would I even do? And then all of us started spitballing ideas. I was like, okay, that's coming together, the story's coming together, everything's going places, and then I just did that, and so the Smut came out on June 26th, and Flanking Maneuvers, the first chapter, came out on July 5th, so about 10 days after I wrote the Smut is the first time I wrote Flanking Maneuvers. I had anticipated, I'd seen it as like a TV show, so instead of chapters, they were called episodes. It was just like for a sitcom that you'd see on like Fox or something. Yeah. For 22 minutes a night, you can come watch two people be mean to each other. And that was where all my dirty jokes and stupid humor and song parodies came from.
Yeah, throughout the BIE, you have a lot of songs in there.
Yes, I do have a lot of music in, like, whenever I listen to music on my iPod or something, or on my computer, I always have scenes in my head of like, oh, well, this would be really cool if it was set to this kind of scene or whatever. And since it's due to the format that I was writing in, I was able to utilize them. If you go onto my Faceman now, I'll bet 90% of those links to YouTube are broken, and I have to go back and do them, but I'm not going to, because I'm lazy. But, Flanking Maneuvers let me get away with doing song parodies, which is where I take songs and make the lyrics about butt sex or something. And do it to the same tune and have a good time. I think the first one that I did, I know it was a lot of Disney songs, because I thought that was funny. Yeah, it was A Whole New World. I think Wooten told me to do it, and I responded because I'm Marty McFly secretly. But, yeah. So in the shower, I'd be listening to, I'd have tunes stuck in my head, and I think, oh, these lyrics go okay with it,
This thing sounds really weird, I'm gonna change it now.
Yeah, it's like, and eventually song parodies would come up from them. Eventually I had them start singing actual songs I just liked music to. I'd start like choreographing it. But Flanking Maneuvers was always sort of a place where I could put my more silly ideas that wouldn't fit into an actual story. And then, long after that, after I'd finished Flanking Maneuvers, after I'd finished Bros and Equestria, after I had finished Helios, I'd always written more Flanking Maneuvers whenever I had, like, an idea. I'd just come in and be like, oh, well, I'll do this. Because Flanking Maneuvers was I told people when I wrote it that it was going to be updated when I had an idea and not before. I wasn't going to be devoting a lot of attention to it, but I would be
updating at some point.
Yeah, if an idea came to me, then I would not hesitate to sit down and put it in the...
Slam your face into the keyboard.
Yeah, slam face into keyboard, post results. So long after I'd finished Bros and Equestria and Helios, and I think even after I was starting Father of the Night, midway through Father of the Night, I took a break. This was in like May or April of one year. I just took a break, and I said, you know what? I'm going to give Flanking Maneuvers an actual real ending where it's like, because originally I just wrote it to be funny. I wrote it to be silly and stupid and not to be serious, but people were like saying,
you need an ending.
They weren't even telling me that I needed an ending. Honestly, people were over my career, people have been saying, you need to do less endings and more sequels. And I said, you need to sit back down, sir. But people were telling me like, oh man, the way you wrote Celestia in that story totally, I used to not like her, but the way you wrote her made me totally change my mind about her. I was like, really? Like, on purpose? You did that? Because of what I did?
BIE actually made me like her more, as well as Luna.
Like, I just, it's shocking to me that something that I wrote where someone shoves a fucking a banana up someone's ass could change someone's opinion on a character they do or do not like. But, people said they really liked it, and they were always anticipating the next release because they liked the dynamic. And I thought, okay, well, if people like this enough, then I owe it to them to actually sit down and do something for them. So I sat down and I plotted out how the rest of the story would have gone. I made it a bit less silly, a bit more poignant. There was still a lot of stupidity in it. But, I gave it an ending, and honestly, at the end of the day, that's one of the fics that I'm pretty proud of. If I had to rate the 3 fics that I was most proud of, it'd probably be Bros and Equestria, just by virtue of the fact that it's like birthing a hippo. Bros and Equestria would be there, flanking maneuvers would be there, because it's something that wasn't intended to be anything that turned into something. And I really liked the other story that no one brings up, Hope Rides Alone, which is just like a Green Lantern story that I also incorporated lyrics and themes from a band that I liked. And I did it. The only reason I'm proud of that is because I did it in 8 chapters. And after it took you 90 chapters to do one story, you can be proud that it only took you 10 to do another.
I really liked how you did BIE.
I got to the point with Bros and Crusher. I was like, near the end. No, I was like that after I got to 20 chapters. Like, this is way too long. No one's gonna sit down and read this. But I wouldn't be satisfied if I just nuked it or like kneecapped it. So before I did the big twist that we'll probably end up getting to in Bros and Equestria, that part where everyone says this made me sad. Before I got to that, I was struggling to come up with side plots and crap they could go off and do. I remember the last thing I did was I threatened to give Fluttershy an egg beater abortion because I thought it was funny.
You're insane, dude.
No, I'm just egg beater abortions are funny.
Let's just be the last part here. Is the spoiler section for BIE, the stuff we haven't talked about. So if you guys don't want to see any spoilers, then click the annotation.
Okay, so chapter 74 of Bros and Equestria, which is where I start killing everybody.
It's so sad. I mean, I want to punch you in the face because of that.
Chapter 74, where everything gets worse. But, so, for people who are here, or just don't care about spoilers, which, whatever, I'm not gonna judge. Yeah. But, so this thing that happened was, some time before that, I had come up with a genius idea to make it so that the 2 main characters in the story didn't age. Anon and Mos would be functionally immortal for,
how long it took them to get them back.
Yeah, so long as they didn't get stabbed through the chest again, they would be...
I love that scene. I love how you got stabbed in the chest, stood back up, and just kept walking.
I've always said that if he died...
He'd just walk it off.
Yeah, if either of them died, if Anon died, he'd probably turn into like a lich or something and make a phylactery, but if Mos died, he just would refuse to acknowledge the fact that he died and then continue.
Yeah, I love the whole mental thing he had. He was fading, his heart would start pumping, and his brain is just like, no, get back up, and his heart just started pumping.
That's more balls than brains, but I get what you're getting at. But yeah, so they would live functionally forever, and that's something I carried into flanking maneuvers too, because it was poignant. People liked it. Well, people didn't like it when I started killing people, but it was ripe for drama. Either way, they find out that they're immortal. So I get to chapter 72 is where Rainbow Dash and Anon are married now, and it's all nice, and there's a big happy family, and they're trying to adopt a kid. The last chapter I wrote was a Smut chapter, and then I remember at the end of that I said, okay, now this story is going to go in a weird direction, and some of you aren't going to like it. So, if you don't like it, consider this the ending, if you don't want to go forward. I'm going to consider something else the ending, but, to each your own. And so, for a while, at the start of every chapter, I've been putting, 2 years in Equestria, 3 years in Equestria, 6 months in Equestria, yada, yada, yada. And then on that one, in the one where I started killing people, I took 42 years in Equestria.
Yeah, and then he moved to 1,247 year.
Yeah, I think the final number was
2,552.
Was 25 something, 25, 28 something.
Yeah, 25, 55, 52.
Yeah, that I remember. I did that because that's the same year Halo takes place in. I thought it was But either way, so yeah, I skipped ahead 40 years and made it to Rainbow Dash died in a crash and tugged people's heartstrings. And then the next chapter, I killed Lotus and made someone watch. And
that was just the best scene I have ever read. But oh my god, that was so sad.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that all the killing of everyone starts in chapter 76, and by chapter 74, I'm sorry. And by chapter 77, everyone is dead, except the princesses. Yeah, the easiest way to write tragedy is to give someone something and then take it away. And that's what I did.
Kinda just slapped them in the face, though.
That, I wanted it to be that. I wanted it to be this, when people die, it's this big, sudden, awful slap to the face. So I wanted people to feel the same way the characters were feeling when someone dies.
Was it year 197 or something? Freaking non-Moose and the princesses?
Hang on. I can tell you that. Rainbow Dash died in year 42. Lotus died in year 83. And, spoiler alert, the princesses died in year 2561. So, yeah, in between, I think what happened was, I did a random 4-digit number and said, okay, this is when they leave. And then everything else, I just sort of did random numbers. I think only 1 or 2 of them were actually meaningful numbers. But I did random numbers and just said, okay, on this date, this happens. And on this date, this happens. And on this date, this happens. And that was where I started doing 2 chapters a day. And I just, churn stuff out. And that's where a lot of my scene ideas came from, where I was like, okay, I want him to adopt a griffin kid, because I think it'd be cool. And I want to do this scene in the sewer. And I want to do this scene with a big laser gun. And I want to do this scene where he's, dealing with other griffins after he totally robbed them that one time. And then I want to show that that through their efforts, they are circumventing the natural world and sort of improving the world, but their fish are getting too big for their pond.
Yeah.
And so their place in the world is becoming more and more of a formality. They're not needed anymore. And so eventually you get bored, and eventually you just want to go somewhere else. And that's where I was leading up to, which was that Anon felt that they'd done their job and weren't needed anywhere else anymore. And Mos, as you can tell by looking at him, has trouble with loss and letting things go. So he didn't want to leave.
Mhm.
That's why I always said that, people got mad at me for making Anon remarry after Rainbow Dash. And they said, oh, you should have been more like Mos and not had anyone else in his life. And I said, well, yeah, that's a romantic idea, but it's seriously unhealthy.
Yeah, and this guy. I mean, he cares for everyone. So
I don't think I have to tell you. No, he's not. This guy's not someone you should strive to be like. He's interesting to read about, but if you ever had to be around him, you'd probably think he was an asshole.
everyone's an asshole every day.
Everyone's an asshole when you get down to the root of it, but not everyone's the kind of asshole who almost gets themselves killed because they have this super awesome idea, guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, so around that chapter, everyone started getting mad that I was killing people and skipping so much time. In hindsight, I probably would have gone back and if I was ever to rewrite it, which I don't think I will. Where I would go back and make the time skips a bit less intense, maybe 5 years every so often. But I wanted it to feel like
you were watching the time go past. You were feeling like they were as time went in a blink of an eye.
Yeah, I wanted it to be oh wow, where the hell am I?
Because I felt that. I felt that when I was reading. Every time I read it, I was like, wow, it's skipping so far. And, like, cause it takes you away from your normal position and puts you on, like, the views of looking at the world instead of being in the world. So it gives you a different type of perspective to them.
Yeah, what I wanted it to be like was I wanted them to basically have no idea what was going on in the world anymore. Like, Anon went out and explored the world and had his fun, and Mos stuck around and had his adventures in the city. But short of the princesses from which they spent a good bit of their time, they had almost no connection to the outside world besides each other. And that's where I ultimately went with it, which was they lost everything. They lost their friends, they lost their family, they lost the only other two people who lived as long as they had.
They were talking to their bloody great grandchildren.
Yeah, and, the world didn't need them anymore. They were basically didn't belong anywhere, but, the other one was still alive. I didn't want to say they had each other because that sounds super gay, but,
yeah.
They, everyone says, why'd you make them immortal? I said, because I wanted to do, everyone seems to only do immortality one of two ways. Either it's the greatest thing ever, or it's awful and they hate it. And,
you want to take it both ways.
Kind of. I wanted to show immortal life as, eternal life as being just that. Think of what you're doing now, except it lasts forever. Some days you'll have good days, some days you'll have really shitty days, and more often than not, you'll have a pretty average day, and you'll decide, oh, well, I need milk. It's mundane, yeah, but that's probably what would happen, and it's definitely more interesting than the 10 millionth story I have to read about fucking, I'm Princess Luna, and everyone I watch dies. Yeah.
It's sad.
I'm sad about things.
Yeah. And the adventures start once more.
Yeah, I have one or two bonus chapters that, take place after they left. Mm-hmm. Because there were some ideas like, oh, well, what if I did this thing? And those are generally fine, but I've gotten a lot of flack for this, but I still stand by it. When I wrote the ending, mm-hmm. where they go, I had said that I want people to make their own sort of ending, like, mm-hmm. oh, well, what happened after they died? Well, what do you think happened after they died? What do you think happened after they left? Where did they go? And in the AiE thread, when I said it, I also said that from this point on, they can show up in any other story at all.
Huh.
Like, they could show up in. I had a friend named Imperius who said they were going to show up in his story, and to me, they showed up in that story. He never finished that story because real life got in the way, but in my mind, they went to that place and did shenanigans, and then they left.
I'm dancing all the way, I just got stabbed in the nuts, but I don't care.
Yeah, they show up, they do things, maybe they have a bearing on the plot, maybe they don't, but the fact of the matter is that they can show up anywhere and anywhen and do whatever happens, just so long as they leave with their heads on their shoulders.
So,
I was just gonna say, and don't take that as meaning that I've totally written it off. I've long since decided that on the day that I decide, okay, I've written enough. I'm done. I'm done writing fan fictions. On that day, I'll probably sit down and write, like, I don't know, a 500 word epilogue, final sort of tack in everything that I've written, and it will be about them because that's where I started, and so that will be where I finish. I don't know when that'll be. I don't know what it'll be about, but I know that on the day that I do decide, you know what, I'm done, will be the day that will be the day that I actually give them a final farewell. But who knows, however many crazy shenanigans might happen in the meantime. I considered doing a bonus chapter about the start of season 5 when they go to Equality Town. I thought that'd be funny. I've considered a bonus chapter where Luna has to go into their dreams, because I've always thought most of his dreams would either be really funny or really, like, ironically, boringly funny. I don't know if I'm going to write them, because I've got other stuff that I'd probably end up writing first, but I know that every new episode brings with it some form of idea that I could act upon for a bonus story.
Well, I will definitely read the epilogue if you ever do one. That'd be a very sad day for me, because you'll stop writing, but,
I might go off and write some other thing somewhere, but that will be the end of any horse fiction that I write, where I say, okay, I've had my fun. No more horse fiction for me. Time to go off and do something else.
Yeah, I'm just gonna pee on the Statue of Liberty.
Go do something with turquoise and ruin more songs for people because I make them about, like, butts or something.
Yeah, so, for all the writers, who are currently watching this, is the end of the spoiler point. But for all the writers who are, watching this, or listening to this, or have ideas, add BIE to your story, see if you can make it work. See if you know the personality, obviously ask Mandroid first, but,
No, you don't, figure it out, do your own thing, but you don't have to ask me anything. I like it. I want to be told, so insofar as I want to read what you do, but my only stipulation is that they're not going to fall in love with anybody, and they're not going to die doing it, or get hurt in any serious arm-losing fashion. They have they have to get out of there the same way they went into it. Use them for gags.
Yeah, you can make it so they get stabbed in the gut, and they just like, oh hey, I've been stabbed. Again.
Oh no, not again.
Yeah.
Yeah, just do whatever. Do whatever. I'd read it, but that's because I'm an maniac.
Hey, and for the music writers, I dare anyone who is watching this who make music whatever to make a song about Moose and on Moose's adventures.
I think I ended on that. I think I ended on that Queen song about your best friend, or I'm sure there's something out there that I could co-opt and borrow, end quotations. But I'd listen to it.
Yeah. Thank you for joining us, man. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. I've certainly made worse decisions in 10 minutes after meeting somebody.
Yeah, if you guys like this video, please like, comment, and subscribe. It really helps a lot. And go check out Mandroid's Faceman, which will be in the description, as well as his fanfiction. Because, he's a lot of fun, and it's kind of stupid.
if you go onto my fanfiction, you find broken YouTube links. Please, for the love of God, leave comments on the chapter where the broken link is, so I can go fix it. Because not a lot of people do that. All right, but that's the only thing I ask.
Yeah, go and like his random stories.
Be cool. Stay gold,
Yeah.
internet people.
Yeah, and we shall see you on the next video. Auf Wiedersehen!